You want another example of the mind-boggling incompetence and misdirection of the trolls who make up the Republican cult? Kansas. 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 You know, the governor of Kansas, Brownback, old Sam, he decided he was going to cut taxes on the wealthy and jam it to the folks in the working poor and the lower middle class and the working class, and everything would be okay. It's going to cut everything, lower taxes. You know, I don't know why this is so hard for these right-wing devils to understand, but if you are going to have any kind of a government that provides services of any sort, then you've got to have taxes. Or you invade other countries and loot them and steal their artifacts, and you steal their money, and you put their people into slavery and bring them back to your country and make them work for you. There's no other way to do it. Either the people in the self-governing unit, tax themselves in order to pay for the services they want, whether it's, I don't know, fire protection, education, the crop subsidy, whatever it is. That stuff doesn't come free. But the Republicans think that those things do come free, and the best way to have the greatest government is to eliminate government. Eliminate it. That's what Paul Ryan is going to try to do as soon as his weird-looking ass settles in as Speaker of the House. But I digress. So, Kansas lawmakers back in June, according to Bloomberg.com, lawmakers in that state back in June approved the largest revenue increase in state history, thinking that they had closed a $400 million hole created by income tax cuts that Sam Brownback, the Republican governor, pushed through 3 years earlier. They hadn't. See, the lawmakers approved a revenue increase, trying to fill the $500 million hole that this filthy Republican cult member, Sam Brownback, pushed through. Well, in the 3 months ending September 30th, just passed, the state took in $66 million less than what they needed. And the turmoil in the state of Kansas now is expected to get much worse next week when a panel of economists issues its annual projections. Those projections are likely to confirm the need for the Republican-controlled legislature to adjust the budget again. That means raise taxes again, because all those benefits that Sam Brownback promised from the decrease in taxes haven't materialized. Wow. I think anybody with more than an 8th grade education could have explained that one, could have predicted this was going to happen. A Republican from Emporia, Kansas, a state senator named Jeff Longbine, said this, quote, "Well, the income tax cuts passed in 2012 and 2013 were way too steep and way too quick. The revenue continues to decline, and we have to do something." Oh, my God. Yeah, you have to do something? What the first thing you ought to do is fire Brownback, you idiots. Oh, my God. Now, as Bloomberg puts it, this drama in Kansas encapsulates a broader ideological debate over the influence that tax cuts have on economic performance. You know, the Republican wishful thinking is, well, we'll have a state where there's no taxes, and you know what? Businesses will just flock here. They will. No, they won't. Because businesses know that if there is not a competent tax structure within a state, that means there's no money for roads, bridges, rail beds, schools. Why can't Republicans understand that if a fifth-rate talk host like me gets it immediately? Why would a business move into a state financially collapsing, in addition to not having any kind of money to take care of the absolute necessities of that state? Well, the Republicans will tell you, oh, Malloy, you're crazy. What the hell are you talking about? Well, what was the book a couple of years ago? What's the matter with Kansas? Now, all of these Republican cult presidential candidate wannabes each have endorsed this idea of federal tax reductions with the promise that they're going to spur investment. In Kansas, that idea is certainly being tested while the residents of that poor state are waiting and waiting and waiting for the promised goose, jolt, bump, make us prosper. Not like this. A senior research associate at the Urban Brookings Tax Policy Center, whatever the hell that is, said, quote, "This is absolutely what's going on in Kansas, a cautionary tale, because it's basically cutting revenue without figuring out how to cut expenditures." How to cut expenditures. Well, Brownback has already gutted education funding in the state of Kansas. He has gutted roads and infrastructure, Department of Transportation, whatever it's called, inside Kansas. He's gutted everything. So how much cutting, Brookings Institute Tax Policy Center genius, can a governor or a Congress effect without driving everybody into absolute poverty? The same guy, the senior research associate, said at the federal level it's different because they can deficit finance, not the Republican cult. Anyway, he goes on to say, but you can't be a deficit hawk and a tax cutter at the same time. Oh, well, there's a news flash. Who among these Republican cult members who want to be president will understand what this tax policy expert is trying to say? Now, Brownback, who, as you remember, is a former U.S. Senator, he's been governor of Kansas for a little over 5 years now. And he embraced the absolutely ridiculous supply-side economic theory of tax cutting and said Kansas could become the Texas of the grasslands by luring businesses with lower income levies, right? We're going to be the Prairie Texas up here. How does it feel, Sam? You're real close to him. And Brownback's intent is to eventually eliminate income taxes in the state of Kansas. Well, that'll certainly make the citizens happy, won't it? They can start homeschooling. They can carry block and tackle with them when they're driving across a bridge and it starts to collapse, and they'll hope they have enough time to jump out the car, sling it against a huge oak tree, and crank themselves out of impending death as the bridge collapses beneath them. But maybe that won't work. Maybe that won't work. Kansas has fallen short of revenue projections that came out of the addled brain of Sam Brownback every month since the cuts were enacted. Eileen Hawley, a spokeswoman for Brownback, didn't respond to an email from Bloomberg seeking a comment on Brownback's plans to deal with the deficit. The governor said this month that spending cuts wouldn't be an option, nor new taxes. In other words, Brownback is going to ride this dead horse right into its grave, which is fine, except maybe the people of Kansas are not going to like it. Well, you guys elected him. Suck it up.